Ladies and gentlemen of YouTube, it is time for another Metal Earth kit, and sticking with Star Wars, here is one more from the new movie, from A New Hope, The Force Awakens, not A New Hope. This, I honestly don't remember this as much, but this is a First Order snow speeder. I don't particularly remember seeing this in the movie, but I've only seen it once. There will be more times. Let's crack this open and see what we're up against. First Order Snowspeeder. What's inside? Our usual. Two metal sheets. And back this up a little bit. And instructions. And on the first sheet, we have on the front a little picture drawing of the model. Bit about tabs and folds and needle nose pliers, and a bit about the bending 90 degrees and twisting tabs 90 degrees, depending on whether it's a circle or a triangle. In the directions, that'll tell you what to do with the tab. You either bend them over or you twist them. And then down here we have the two different metal sheets kind of laid out. Here and here, and that way you can see, it gives you the part numbers, and that way you can find each individual part. And this is page 1. The directions on how to put it together start on page 2, the assembly flowchart. 1, 2, 3, you just basically kind of go in order of the parts and piece it together. Flip it over for page 3 and page 4, and then we move on to the next sheet, which starts you off. You have to actually open this up, I think. Yes. Page 5 and 6, 7 and 8. I like the instructions. I've said this before in a lot of recent videos. They now kind of color like parts. A lot of times in these kits you have duplicate parts that are used for more than one thing. Like the X-Wing has 4 of the same kind of guns. And because of that, what they've done in the past is they'll number one of the parts. But then the other duplicate parts, you had to kind of figure out where they were on your own. Which isn't a problem with something, you know, fairly obviously unique, like these. But you get into parts that are very similar. And there's really not much of an example here. Well, these are close, but you can tell them apart. There's been situations where there were little circular parts, and there were numerous ones. And they were all very similar, but there were some that were in this group and some that were in this group, and it was hard to tell them apart. The fact that they do this is wonderful and a great improvement. That they give it, you know, you can find the one sheet in that color, find the matching color. It makes it quicker, easier, and more confident that you're going to find the right part. So what are we going to need for this kit? Well, used to, they said a pair of tweezers is all you needed to put them together. And you can put most of them together with a pair of tweezers, although it's going to be difficult. I like to have the Fascinations toolkit that they sell. In the directions now they say needle nose pliers are helpful, and they are. I use a combination of these. These are clippers that are great for getting the parts off the tree. I have bought other clippers and the points weren't quite small enough. These are. You have the very long needle nose pliers and flat nose pliers. So these are all a great start to these kits. I also like to have a couple of forceps or Kelly clamps, or there's a number of different names for them, but they're basically locking clamps. I use these for a long time. They're pretty thin and pretty long. These are just a little bit smaller. But they're helpful a lot of times for holding on to small parts while you guide them into place. I like to use, I've got some ring pliers here that one side is flat and the other side is rounded. These are good for rounding and shaping certain parts. And I like to have a pocket knife on hand because occasionally there'll be a situation where a tab is really close to something and I can't get anything on it. So this helps to pry it away. Also like to have an assortment of dowel rods, which are good for dealing with round parts, for shaping circular parts. Sometimes I've got a paintbrush that's tapered that helps me out. Other little, anything that you can use to help round or shape a part, a marble. I've got one of these that's sharpened on the end for helping make cone shapes. So anything you can use to help you out. Recently picked these up. I'm not sure what I think about them yet, but they're step mandrels with different size little circle areas. Haven't quite figured out whether or not I like those yet. And you may see me use what looks like a dental tool or pick. These are sometimes handy for reaching into areas. Maybe the tab is pushed a little too far in and I need to pull it out. Sometimes they can help push on corners to round things. They do sometimes come in handy. Alright, without any further delay, let's get to work. Because one flap bends over and connects to a tab, I bent the tab over slightly to help it line up with the flap as it swings in. This dash steering wheel part was tricky to get on. I bent the top tab down a little. It helped, but it was still tricky to try and attach because of the angle. So far this kit has been pretty straightforward. When it comes to bending tabs, I use my fingernails a lot. Remember to bend tabs so they all face the same way when connecting to another part. Most of the time this helps everything to line up. When putting on this side piece, I had no idea how much to bend the bottom flaps. It was difficult to tell just how it was shaped to get the right fit. I managed to connect it, and then when I went to put the other side on, the console on that side was angled in at the bottom, which then allowed me to realize how much to bend in the bottom flaps. And of course, since the bottom sides are bent in so far, it helps to straighten out the tabs so they point towards the next connection.
The next several steps or parts are just little boxes with right angle bends that attach to the sides. Easy, but time consuming. You'll need to clear all the parts from the inside of this frame piece. Just set them aside, they will come into play later. I strongly suggest using pliers to help hold down part of the frame as you bend it. The frame metal is so thin it could easily warp. The directions say to bend over the tabs here at 90 degrees. I twisted the first tab just enough to hold it so I could line up the rest of the tabs and then secure them. Then come back, straighten up the first tab, and bend it down. With this piece, bend the tabs on 3 of the sides down at right angles. And now, on to the other side. The curves of the next few pieces are a bit complex. It helps to have something cone-shaped to help form the curves. You can use a sharpened pencil. I have a dowel rod that is about the size of a pencil that I sharpened the end of. It came in very handy. Also, round nose pliers are great for carefully shaping small curves. I sometimes roll parts on the table with whatever I'm using to shape it to bend the tabs over. With the engine/thruster cones, part of it is cylinder shape and part of it is cone shape. There is one tab that helps hold the two parts together. It helps to bend this tab up before curving the parts. That way the tab will easily slide into its slot when the time comes. Once I get the tab through, I bend it as far as I can with the tweezers, and sometimes pinch it down with the pliers. I spend a lot of time shaping the thrusters. They are a little complex. Be sure to hold the frame down with pliers while you bend over the tabs. The metal is so thin and will bend very easily.
In this video, I cut out some parts where I tried numerous times to get a part to fit or had to make multiple adjustments to something to allow it to fit. I try to show a little bit of everything, but sometimes you may see in a video that I make 1 or 2 adjustments, when in reality I made many more. I do that to move the build along. These builds take time. Be patient, take your time, and be prepared to make numerous test fits and adjustments during this or any build.
The front rail went on easily, but the back would fall back. I had an overly difficult time getting it to line up. I have noticed that one side of my long pliers is slightly thinner than the other. I'm not sure if that's on purpose or not, but it comes in handy when bending in narrow places. I took my time with part number 40. I can see it warping really easily. Be sure to hold it with pliers near the bend to keep it from warping and to keep it bending on the correct spot. Bend down one of the sides so that you can have a guide to just how far to bend it over. I originally bent piece 43 the right way, but somehow while attaching piece 44 and 45, I bent it back the wrong way. Those two pieces ended up falling back off, oddly enough, so I put them back on the correct way and twisted the tabs to make sure they were more secure.
And here we are, all finished up. The snow speeder from the new movie. I don't remember seeing this in the movie. I showed it to my friends and they're like, was that in the movie? So that means I need to go watch it again. But this build was more complex than I expected. It definitely took some time, took several hours. I spent a lot of time carefully trying to shape these cone shapes and engine shapes, circular shapes. I'm trying to get better at that. I am by no means an expert. I do the best I can with what I got. I have shaky hands. I enjoy doing these in part because it's a challenge. I know there's people out there that can do better than I, and that's great. I'm just basically having fun doing this and showing you where I've made mistakes and trying to give people an idea of what to watch out for who've not done these kits before, or maybe not done this particular one. This is what's up. I had some serious issues with this back railing. The front one went on just fine. The back one was incredibly difficult. There was a lot of square shapes on here as much as the curved and cone ones, and they just take time to bend. I've gotten to where I'll look straight down on the part to see if I've got it at a right angle, and that helps a lot. Just take your time, have fun, don't rush it, and take breaks if you need to. But for now, thank you for watching. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below, and keep on keeping on.